Look at this cast of characters that we have today. The three-man motion. It's going to be me, Jeff Nadu, Ian Cameron, a blast from the past carrying you through in NFL Sunday all the way. Got to tell you guys, I'm excited for this. The card is big. The Philadelphia Eagles are catching a break. We got a guy in Canada, a guy in Lancaster, and a guy in Jersey. Who's ready to have some fun today? Ian Cameron, welcome in, my friend.
It's great. This is a lot of fun. I was excited when I knew it would be both of you joining me on this show because it's been a while since the three of us have been in the same video and the same show working together, and it feels good. Brings back memories of back in the day. But we're ready for a big NFL card. I like this NFL card quite a bit. We'll throw out a lot of good opinions I think I've got on this card, so I'm looking forward to it.
I agree. And you're taking a look at this card also, and you're factoring in there are a lot of inactives today that you want to keep an eye on, and also some good weather conditions. The big man on campus absolutely destroying college basketball. But Jeff, it's Sunday, the God-made Sunday, the seventh day to relax and watch football, my friend.
He definitely did. That's a good point by you. I'm excited to be on with you guys. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, it seems like 2017 or something. Sad we were ever broken up, but we're here. Thanks to allow me to come on.
No, we're going to have a lot of fun today. I'm just I don't think a live link actually went out for the show, so I'm just going to retweet it out there, tag both of you. If you guys like it, watching, retweet the show. We'll have some fun. But look, we got a large card to get to. Why don't we get started right here? And look, there's going to be some shit games on the card. We both know that. All three of us know that. 305-306, Tampa Bay and Detroit. Jamie Swinson in a cast for a day this week, throwing tennis balls on Wednesday. Down Mike Evans. Doesn't seem to matter with whoever's betting this football game because you take a look, it opened up at 3.5. Ian, I'm seeing sixes now at some spots across the board. 46 as an over-under. David Blau, hey, look, rookie quarterback. We saw him against Chicago. Looked good for a half. Then he didn't look good for the second half. Terrible last week, but obviously going up against a much more formidable opponent, the Minnesota Vikings defense. Do we see a rebound? Is this too many points? Or we finally believing in Bruce Arians turning the ship around in Tampa Bay? But to me, Ian, I ain't laying 6 with Tampa Bay on the road, man.
I hear you on that. And this was a conundrum game for me all week. I'm like, I can't back Detroit at this point. You're seeing this team just have a ton of struggles offensively. David Blau, the Purdue rookie quarterback out of Purdue's really come back down to earth. Remember, he lit it up that first half of the Thanksgiving game, and then we thought, wow, where did this come from? Well, it's basically disappeared ever since then. He's been sacked a lot. The offensive line's been shaky. The question is, can you trust Tampa Bay as a road favorite? Tampa Bay laying points is not usually something I do trust. It's just a question of I don't like Detroit very much, so I'm not going to back them. I would be Tampa Bay or nothing for me, but you are concerned. Jameis Winston, how effective is he going to be throwing with that thumb? Mike Evans obviously out for the season due to injury. If the Lions have a clue defensively, and sometimes I wonder about that because they're a sieve defense with a guy in Matt Patricia coaching them who's supposed to be adept on that side of the ball and looks actually more inept on that side of the ball. Can he figure out, maybe you want to double Chris Godwin today and make someone else beat you? We'll see if Patricia's smart enough to figure that out. But I don't like the way the Lions defense is playing. They've been shredded, and even Winston down as top receiver, and even with the thumb issues, I worry about Detroit getting stops. They don't have a pass rush. Their secondary's not been good. And of course, for Blau, he's without Marvin Jones, one of his top targets. So there's not a whole lot to like with Detroit, but I get the feeling Tampa Bay could win this game, Donnie and Jeff. We'll be sweating this one and biting our fingernails if we have a Bucks ticket in our pocket and watch them eke it out by a field goal. I could totally see that happening. So my lean is Tampa, but I couldn't pull the trigger.
Jeff, we take a look at this game, right? And you got a rookie quarterback, and one of your weapons again is down. But keep in mind, it's the Tampa Bay defense. There's going to be opportunities to take shots downfield. We also look in December with what? What's the weather going to be like? What's the temperature? Is there any wind? Obviously, playing in a dome and taking a look at the last two games when the young rookie quarterback was in. Chicago and Minnesota's defense. He's going to get a breather, but can he make enough plays to A, stay within the line or maybe even get over a total here, Jeff?
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, I've seen this Tampa Bay defense in action year after year. Pretty good run. Actually, one of the better run defenses. Shaq Barrett's been terrific, but the big issue is the secondary. It's a passing league. They can't get stops. It seems like an issue every year, no matter who the coach is. I actually like Blau. As we haven't seen a ton of him, but I made the weird comment last week, Donnie. You kind of gasped at what I said, but when I watch the kid play, I'm not saying he'll be Drew Brees, but he reminds me of Drew Brees. The way he is, he's kind of a smaller character. He can move around a little bit. Ian mentioned, though, one of his targets he's going to lose, which hurts. If you want to be in a backup quarterback role, Detroit's not a bad place. They have plenty of weapons. They can move the football. I got to tell you, though, I mean, you look at this Tampa Bay defense. As I said, they can't get any stops. They're 10-3 to the over this year as a group. And you look at the defense. It's one of the big reasons they are 5-9 over the last 3 seasons laying points. They're just not good laying points. I don't know what else to say. Jameis Winston is a machine turning it over. I feel like Darius Slay can get involved in this game a little bit, make his presence felt. I have no interest in laying points with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just don't. The defense is bad. They're going to be without Evans, as you guys mentioned. Ian also put out a good point that, when you're down a player like Evans, that means you can kind of key in on others, which means doubles, and that would take another guy out of the game. So, yeah, for me, I don't think Detroit's as bad as it looks. I think they can hang in this game. If you know anything about some of the books, I mean, they've made it clear Tampa is one of the big public sides today. The books need Detroit here. I don't ever have a problem siding with that. I think their defense is a little bit better than people think, and I know Tampa's isn't, so I'd lean towards taking the points.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we like about Jameis Winston is his carefree style in the pocket. Now, you're looking, again, Mike Evans is a huge miss to not have on your side. Godwin's still a very good wide receiver. You're going to have O.J. Howard, a tight end, but maybe Jeffy's back in the pocket instead of launching that 50-yard jump ball. He says, you know what? Wrist hurts a little bit. Let me dump this one down into the flat. Should be an interesting one to go over and try to cap. But again, I think we're both all in agreement. If we really want to lay close to a touchdown on the road with Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay always seems to fit in that over perspective that we look at. But again, you're talking a quarterback with a throwing arm, which has a fracture in the wrist and also down one of his major weapons. And also from a Detroit side, younger quarterback and also down one of their top weapons. Bo Scarborough doesn't look like, I don't know if I didn't see the final inactives. I'm not sure if Scarborough is going to go in this game, but not an intriguing game. Much more games that we can spend time with. How about this one in DC? Oh, yeah, home of the Eagles. Well, it might be today. Over 50% of the crowd probably is going to be Eagles fans down in that dump. Philadelphia going to start, obviously, Carson Wentz. The young rookie, Dwayne Haskins, going to get a start at quarterback. Seems to have trouble throwing for 150 yards. He's going to be without one of his best players on the offensive line, Brandon Sheriff. He's basically got one wide receiver. Darius Geis breathed life into this offense on the ground. He gets hurt. He's out for the year. So they're going to rely on a rookie quarterback, a 70-year-old running back, not much at wide receiver or offensive line. And, oh, yeah, Pro Football Focus's number one defensive cornerback in the NFL is going to be on the shelf in Quentin Dunbar, which leaves 4 other cornerbacks currently on the roster 100 or lower in the NFL rankings. Now, the one thing that we're always going to bring up is, can the Philadelphia Eagles at wide receiver exploit the 4 worst cornerbacks you're probably ever going to see start a National Football League game today? Also down Ryan Kerrigan, which is a big one. He's had solid seasons against the Eagles, but usually going up against Lane Johnson, who's not going to be there. So we'll see if they can get any pressure. The Eagles are getting lucky again here. I'll start with you, Jeff. Last week we saw with an Eli Manning, an old decrepit wheelchair quarterback, a team that basically quit. The Eagles were able to pick up the victory. Now seemingly getting another team that looks like they just quit. Maybe we're masking that issue. Maybe they get lumped up against the Cowboys. But for today, that line was down to 3.5, Jeff. Now back to 6s and 6.5 here for the Eagles.
Yeah, look, if you're wanting to lay points to trust the Eagles, go ahead. I mean, you do it at your own risk, though. I mean, you mentioned, Eli Manning, not for nothing. I mean, Eli Manning carved this team up in the first half. At the end of the day, they have no corners. They can't cover. I will say you make an interesting point about the injuries, though. If you are the Eagles, okay, there's really no excuse today as to why you can't stop guys like Steven Sims, okay? There just isn't. I mean, you don't have a Devontae Parker out there to beat you. You don't have a Ryan Fitzpatrick that can carve you up. You don't have anyone outside of McLaurin. And if you're McLaurin and you're the Eagles, you have to double McLaurin. It's simple. I don't know what else to say. Put a safety over the top. You do not let Terry McLaurin beat you. They have no one else. They're not going to run the football because they're not going to be effective, and Geis is out. They have a quarterback who's completely a mess in that back. He could be the worst quarterback starting today in the NFL. He's just not very good. I've seen down in Washington, they're already looking to move on from him. Is it time to move on from him? At the end of the day, there is no excuse for the Eagles here. But as we've seen with this group, there's always no excuse. They always make it difficult. I will say, though, and you make a point, Donnie, the Eagles have covered 4 or 5 against Washington for whatever reason. I even remember back to the Super Bowl year, they started out the season with a blowout victory. They've handled this game. If you're a fan out there, this is a place you never want to go if you're a fan. Stay away from FedEx Field. It's a complete fucking mess. The parking's laughable. Everything about it is just horrific. Stay away from it if you're a fan. But Eagles, I think, have the advantage in the trenches. I do have some worries, though, Ian and Donnie, about this Eagle offense. You look at the receiver situation is a complete travesty. I'm not sure what you didn't learn last week about three receivers. Donnie, what am I not seeing here as to why this team keeps throwing out three wide receivers? It's fucking pathetic, and it shouldn't happen in this league, and I have a real issue with it today. And not only do you only have three receivers, but one of them wasn't even on this team 3 weeks ago. The other one has been in the doghouse all season. And I got to tell you, I haven't seen anything from Rasega Whiteside outside of that one catch that made me say, wow, I need to see more of this guy. And the third guy is a practice squad player out of Georgia State. At the end of the day, I don't want to be backing people like that. For me, I will pass on this one. I hope the Eagles win as a fan, but at any rate, it's not exciting, some of the prospects here. But you have to double Terry McLaurin. You just have to.
Yeah, one of the worst 3-game stretches you're going to see, because even with nobody healthy, nobody doing anything, the Eagles put up 418 yards versus the Giants, including with one wide receiver, 300 yards passing the week previous with the Dolphins, almost another 400-yard game from offense. Carson Wentz doing it all himself. If he had any weapons, be amazing to see what this offense can do. Ian, I'm going to come to you in this one because we're looking again at this time of year, and the importance of it is it happens in all sports, Ian, whether it be hockey, basketball, college football, teams that have absolutely nothing to play for and are just looking to say, look, let's not get our really good players hurt for next year. Let's take a look at some younger guys, and whether we win or lose, it's probably more beneficial to lose and improve our draft position. When looking at the Philadelphia Eagles with a win today, it's going to set up a monster game. Well, we think it's monster, but not the rest of the world thinks it's monster between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Does that factor in? Because we were seeing a preview line last week and open up at -6. When it opened this week after everybody saw the Monday Night Football game, quickly goes to 3.5. Now we're back to 6.5 here. What gives?
Yeah, I mean, this is the game and the two teams where Donnie, who's been posting a highlight reel clips of his old football playing days earlier this week, he needs to send that damn tape to the Eagles and Redskins like, pick me, because you got to use somebody on the field as a receiver and as a skill position player, because I don't know who's going to be there for either of these teams. I mean, they're both banged up beyond belief at the skill positions right now. Washington, you mentioned it, Terry McLaurin, and who else for them? For the Philadelphia Eagles, no Aguilar, no Alshon Jeffrey, no Deshaun Jackson, who's been out forever, so you're going to have to rely on J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, the Stanford product, Greg Ward, former quarterback turned receiver, Robert Perkins. I mean, my goodness, it is a mash unit at receiver for Carson Wentz in terms of the weapons that he's going to have trust in and faith in to catch the football and make plays for him in the passing game. So it's really tough. At this time of year, you look at teams like a Miami, Washington, Giants, all these teams that are out of the playoffs. And when you're handicapping them in December NFL football, you have to see, is there passion? Is there still an effort? Are they still coming to the field trying to work, trying to win? You got to say yes with Washington. You got to admit, this Washington team hasn't rolled over. They've played hard for Bill Callahan since he took over earlier this season from Jay Gruden. And you look at their recent results. They've won a couple of games. They were right down to the wire with Green Bay at Lambeau Field last week, and that's amid all the injuries they've had. This isn't a team that's thrown in the towel. And maybe just a team that hasn't thrown in the towel might be good enough to hang in the Eagles. Trust Philly playing a number on the road, but their biggest game of the season, you could say, on deck next week for the division against the Dallas Cowboys. So I thought there was more value in this number with Washington last week at Green Bay. But I'll tell you what, I would absolutely, if I'm betting this game, lean to Washington plus the points.
Jeff, I want to take a look at this angle because obviously it's the Philadelphia Eagles. We always get interested by these games. Over, under, depending on where you're shopping at 38.5, 39 in that range. You're taking a look in the pathway to victory with a total. You like to have two explosive offenses, right? When you look at the Eagles, I don't really know who you're going to add guys from the practice. Hey, he runs a 4.4. Congratulations. But they don't really have that big-time weapon. If you look at the Washington Redskins, they have one player on offense, Terry McLaurin, who might be able to get deep, but you're right, they're probably going to focus on. And if you look at the young kid at quarterback, the Buffalo game, 116 in the air, the Jets game, 171, Detroit, 144, Carolina, 114, Green Bay, 140. I mean, this is like the Army-Navy game pass-wise, Jeff. Looking at a 38, we were talking about 17, 16s early in the week. I think the Eagles can score a little bit more, but I'm worried about what Washington can actually do on the offense here.
Yeah, you got to wonder. I mean, they're going to be really hard-pressed to move the ball. And look, all due respect to Eagles, they have been better defensively. I know last week and the week before haven't really divulged into that, but they should eat today with that defensive line. Brent, you mentioned Sheriff is out. It's a quarterback that just doesn't have any real chops in the NFL. You should be able to make some ways with him. And I got to tell you, the one concern, if I'm an Eagle fan today, I am really concerned about this defensive line for the Washington Redskins. I mean, any way you cut it, Payne, Allen, Sweat, Ioannidis, these guys are terrific. They're getting to the quarterback. They're doing a nice job at causing pressure. And this is not a vintage Eagle offensive line right now, okay? I mean, Sayamalu is what he is, not a great player. Lane Johnson's out. And you and I, Donnie, talked about this. We have to realize at this point with Brandon Brooks, you're not dealing with a normal football player. And again, I'm not exploiting his situation, but at the end of the day, the guy has anxiety. He is a better player when Lane Johnson's out there. And when you don't have that guy out there, you're going to have some concerns. The right side of the Eagles' offensive line is concerning today. It really is, especially when I see Montez Sweat up against Halapuli, Vati Vaitai. I don't have a lot of confidence in that. That means that may take away from what the Eagles do from a chipping standpoint. It might take away from a weapon or two. You're going to have trouble all day with those guys up front. And that's where I think you make some sense with this under. And Ian makes a point. They could just be looking to get out of here with a win. It's been something that I think they're just going to have to try to do today. The game next week is the one that matters. They'll win this game, but I'm not thinking it's going to be crazy. I could see a 20-13 type of game here, frankly.
Jeff, the type of cynic that I am usually, kind of surprised, Jeff, when you saw the inactives, that Brandon Brooks wasn't on the inactive report today because he was struggling with Lane Johnson. So we'll see what takes place in that football game. Put a big one there. Go ahead, Ian.
That was an ultimate rally from the death last week, too, on Monday Night Football against the Eagles. The Eagles were, in danger of losing straight up last week. And now in a short week with a huge game on deck, that's at home against the New York Giants, and that offense looked like it was stuck in mud until midway through the third quarter when they finally started to get some things going against a Washington team that, they're not good. Yeah, they're injury-riddled, but they're hard trying. They've kept working. They've kept battling week in and week out for Callahan. Yeah, that's why I'm in no rush to lay these road points.
Yeah, and keep in mind last week also, real bad weather on Monday Night Football. You're not going to get that in a lot of cities today. I mean, you're talking about December weather in a lot of these places. Might be cold in some, but not really windy weather conditions. Let's keep it moving here because the one cold game we're going to talk about here, probably the coldest game of the day, Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. Trubisky and Rodgers. Trubisky much better over the past couple of weeks. I hate to say it, but hey, it's a shame that he wasn't playing this way, Ian and Jeff, early in the season when maybe they could have made some headway and actually fought their way in. Still hanging around like that lower wild card seeding, but it could all come to a crashing halt today. But that's not what the odds makers are telling you. Opens up at 5 and 6.5. Now we're seeing 4.5, even out of New Jersey, Ian, -3.5, -120 showing up at FanDuel in this game. Cold weather conditions, not a lot of wind. We know the Bears are coming to play. They even got a key activation on the defensive line. And we did see if you can pressure Aaron Rodgers, that offense is going to struggle. It's not what we're used to seeing. Like Green Bay usually has a humming offense going up and down the field. That's not the case. They're going to lean more on defense today and a running game. It's a cold weather game. If we take a look at the totals, opens up at 41, as we said again, as low as 3.5, as high as 4.5 in different outlets. Ian, I'll start with you first. This is a key battle here in the NFC North. Does Mitchell Trubisky over the past couple weeks give you enough to say, you know what? I think this will be a close game. They'll hang around. Or are you just saying, I ain't trusting Mitch until I see it for at least a couple weeks here?
I'm on the Bears here, plus the points, and I am trusting Mitch here, and here's why. When Chicago can run the ball, when they can run the ball, it opens things up. Mitch becomes more confident. He has more lanes to throw the football down the field. It makes him running the football more dangerous because now you can't stop the run from the running back. But now you got to worry about Mitchell Trubisky hanging onto the ball and running as well. That should, in theory, be able to happen for Chicago today against Green Bay. Green Bay's run defense is not very good. We're finding that out week in and week out. I think this is going to be an opponent where Chicago can have success running the ball. And if they can, it's going to make Trubisky a much more effective quarterback. That's the simple handicap with Chicago. And then on the flip side, Akeem Hicks is a huge return for Chicago. Their run defense hasn't been the same, and overall defense from a pass rush standpoint either hasn't been the same without him. Now they get him back. They should be able to contain Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, the two running backs, get more pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And I'm seeing a disturbing pattern with Green Bay and their offense. And maybe this is a Matt LaFleur issue. He's not adjusting well enough. How many times this year have we watched Green Bay play on offense? They have this great drive early in the game, get down the field, put up points in bunches early, and then zilch for the rest of the game. They get shut down or they barely score 3-7 points the rest of the game. That's happened on like 3 or 4 games this year with the Green Bay Packers. It's like they take people by surprise early, but then teams make their adjustments against Rodgers and that offense, and it stops working for extended stretches later in the game. I don't trust Green Bay's offense to march up and down the field, even at home here at Lambeau, against a Chicago defense that's getting arguably one of their best, if not their best player back from injury for this game. So give me Chicago here, plus the points. And they're playing life and death football right now. And they're playing like a team that hasn't given up. They still think there's a puncher's chance at the playoffs. And until they're eliminated, they're going to keep playing like it. And I think the matchup works all right for the Road Bears here. So I'm on Chicago here, plus the points. I think this is a field goal game at worst for them.
Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky gave them nothing opening night versus Green Bay, if you remember, at the early back of the football season. Temperature today, Jeff, at kickoff around 15 degrees. Mile-an-hour winds, 7, 8 miles an hour. That's not really going to affect it here. But again, the same adage comes. Look, you're getting a Hall of Fame quarterback on one side, and you're getting a guy that looks like he's finally getting healthy again from that shoulder injury. It's cold weather. He can move around a little bit. But is it enough to trust? Because, again, we're not talking about getting 7.5 here. Hey, let's just see if we can keep this one close. Going into Green Bay, you're probably going to have to get a win if you're going to cover this game. Do you trust the Chicago Bears heading into Lambeau here, Jeff?
No, because long-term, Mitchell Trubisky has made it clear he's not a good NFL quarterback. They're only averaging 4.7 yards per play, which is not good. Here's the problem with Chicago, taking Chicago today. I agree with Ian. The defense is terrific. But at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is 50-30 at home in his career against the spread, and they're covering those games by 8.5 points a game. So, listen, they're just a different team in Lambeau Field. The thing today, though, is that the temperature is going to be around 15 degrees. I mean, when this game starts, you can have 12, 13 degrees. That is very cold. Okay, anytime you get under 20 degrees, it's a different feel out there. The ball feels like a rock when you catch it. The ball's not moving the same way when you kick it. You look at both these defenses; both are very good. You look at the Packers; all season have been very solid, particularly in the pass defense. I got to be honest. I like Aaron Rodgers, and I think he can. He's a terrific quarterback. But you guys mentioned it; just not a ton of weapons. The play calling's been odd. I think this is a typical NFC North game. Low scoring. I don't know if it'll be 10-3 like the first game of the season, but if I had to play this game, which I am not, I would look towards taking it under 41. Just seems like a little too high for these games. And for anyone that thinks like this is a cold game, keep in mind, I mean, the coldest game in the history of Lambeau Field is negative 13 degrees. So this is actually quite balmy for that. At the end of the day, though, I have no real interest. I lean with Green Bay just because of how good they've been at home and how good Aaron Rodgers has been there. But these are two teams that just don't give you a lot of excitement offensively. I'll look under the total, but not a game I'm going to be betting.
Yeah, I think you get some pass rush pressure here on both sides of the football. Who's going to make the plays when it matters, and we'll see what happens up in Green Bay. One game I'm not really that interested in, other than if the draft picks are going to get docked and what's going to take place in the upcoming weeks. The New England Patriots, who scouted, you could say, the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals stink. We all know that. But the Patriots certainly not looking like those dominant efforts where, hey, wait till November, December when we really kick it in and make a Super Bowl run. That hasn't taken place. Back-to-back losses here for the New England Patriots. And now look to get a little bit of a reprieve. This line opened up around that 10.5 range. Still sitting in that same range, 42, 41.5. If we take a look at a total. Julian Edelman, who is banged up with both a knee and a shoulder injury, he's going to give it a go. But it doesn't seem to matter. Like, they spent the second-round pick on Mohamed Sanu, who is invisible on that offense. They pick up Philip Dorsett, who can't make any plays for that offense. N'Keal Harry gets like one target a week, and they have zero at tight end and a quarterback that looks very, very limited in the pocket. But they still do have a very good defense. They made the adjustments last week versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Didn't get a lot of help from the referees. Arguably probably could have won that game, but they didn't. Now going on the road, winning by 10. Should they win this football game? Absolutely. But you're taking a look at a New England offense that has to win by double digits on the road. Ian, can it be done?
Yeah, I'm going to take a proactive approach here and actually go over the total. And you think, what are you, nuts? With the way New England's going right now, and Andy Dalton for the Cincinnati offense. First of all, we're dealing with a total, 41.5 here. It's very low. When do you see Tom Brady and the Patriots with a total this low? Not very often. And when you look at New England's schedule, yeah, the offense, and I'm not convinced the offense is fixed or will be fixed, but you also have to factor in the strength of defensive competition they've played lately. They've played some pretty good teams, some pretty good defenses. This Cincinnati defense is going to be the worst defense that the New England Patriots have played probably since, they played the New York Jets, the New York Giants, and they scored 33 and 35 points in those games. So I think this is a defense that will allow New England to at least show you something of the old vintage Tom Brady. Maybe not a great an amazing electric game, but I think he'll move the ball today a little bit. The Cincinnati defense, the Cleveland Browns moved it up and down the field. Every team they faced has moved the ball with ease against the Bengals. And on the flip side, don't laugh, but Andy Dalton, it's actually nice to have him back considering it was Ryan Finley before, and he was a disaster, the few starts he got. And they moved the ball last week against Cleveland. Don't be fooled by 19 points. They were in the red zone about 4 or 5 times in that game, but they did typical Bengals things. They shot themselves in the foot, turned the ball over, had some penalties, and kept the red zone offense was inefficient, which has been a problem consistently with Andy Dalton since he's been an NFL quarterback. But, turn 1, maybe even 2 of those red zone possessions into touchdowns this week against New England. I think they're at least capable of doing that here in this game. And I do think New England's offense finally – look, if they don't have a big day today, guys, maybe it's just not in the cards. Maybe we just got to write it off and say Brady's old, the offensive line's not good, he doesn't have any weapons to work with. But in theory – this has to be an opponent you can get right a little bit offensively. So I'm going to go outside the box here, over 41.5, New England Cincy.
Interesting choice, Ian, there. Jeff, I want to take a look at this game because we look at Baltimore boat races everybody, right? When you step up against Baltimore, it's not really a measuring stick. Buffalo played them close, but then they come back and wax the Jets. If you look at a 5-game snapshot, and then since also getting back Andy Dalton, outside of the Baltimore game versus Oakland, Jeff, lost 17-10 versus Pittsburgh 16-10. They beat the Jets 22-6, hung around with Cleveland 27-19. Looking at that, saying, hey, look, I have a Pro Bowl look, we know Andy Dalton's probably going to move on, but a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback and a veteran that can run the offense. The question to me is not so much the New England defense stopping Cincinnati. It's actually what can happen with the New England offense, especially going on the road. 10 points to me just seems a little bit too much right now with Cincinnati. Are you backing the Bengals getting the points? I mean, obviously, probably not going to be betting this game, but looking at that points, to me, it just seems too many points right now for New England to cover on the road.
No, am I betting the Bengals? Absolutely not. In fact, I would bet New England. I think they destroy Cincinnati in this game. Here's the thing, okay? And here's where I think we need to realize what we're getting here. At the end of the day, was that tape taken by the NFL? Yeah. But you're fucking nuts if you don't think anybody didn't see that. Okay, at the end of the day, here's what we have with New England. We have a team that was viscerally embarrassed again, okay? They were lauded for what they are, cheaters. We all know that. But at the end of the day, I keep saying end of the day because it is at the end of the day, they're going to destroy Cincinnati because they're just way better than Cincinnati. And they're going to use that as fodder and say, you know what? They keep thinking we're cheating. Let's just go out and fucking punk these dudes. Because they will. Cincinnati's defense stinks. It's the worst in the NFL. Their linebackers are laughable. Preston Brown, Nick Vigil, guys like that all season have been horrific for this team. And off of a loss, guys, New England 39-15 against the spread in the Belichick era. They just bounced back. I know, Donnie, you mentioned some of the close games recently. Keep in mind, though, the same game that they hung around with Pittsburgh, even early in the season, they got beat up. They're the worst red zone offense, or one of the worst red zone offenses in the NFL, Cincinnati. There's just nothing to really like about them. I ask, how do they move the ball today? Because I know we keep thinking that, New England's defense will at some point cave, and they did against Houston, but against bad offenses, they have been dominating. It's just that simple. They're only giving up 4.5 yards a play, which is, as you know, Donnie, that's terrific. Mm-hmm. I think they set an example today and say, you know what? You all thought we needed to go out and cheat? Come on, man. We got Tom Brady. And, Tom is a guy that hasn't played well. I've been a proponent of that. He's not the same quarterback, but this is a really horrific team, Cincinnati. They're as bad as it gets. It's pretty clear they want to lose. I think this is like a 35-13 type of game. I think they go in and set an example here.
Interesting. Taking the over in that situation.
Yeah, I would lean to New England.
Yeah.
I would lean to New England as well. I just thought the over was the stronger play. I do think New England's going to hit the 30s because, again, this is the worst defenses, the Jets, the Giants, and the Redskins. They played those 3 teams, and they got 30 points in all of those games, the New England Patriots. And I do think Cincinnati will do a little something offensively. Why? Because I like that they've gotten Joe Mixon involved often. He's catching the ball. They're handing the ball to him a lot. He is probably the best playmaker they've got right now. And they finally figured out after, 12 weeks that, hey, maybe we should give him the ball, give him more touches. So maybe that'll set the Bengals up to do a little bit of something offensively today.
Hey, Donnie.
Yep.
Also, not that they need any, fodder as well, but I mean, these guys aren't like, they don't like sit in their houses and not watch TV and read stuff. I mean, everyone pretty much is saying the same thing about New England. What's going on with New England? What's going on with Tom Brady? Look, I have a feeling in this kind of game, you don't want to give them like fuel to their fire. I don't, at least. So
the floodgates will open. I hear
yeah.
that.
I mean, this is a bad team, Cincinnati. I think we got to call for what it is. Keep in mind, I mean, their loss, 6 of their losses have come by 7 or more points. So, I mean, they're not really hanging around. I guess we're giving them respect because, they're hanging around in certain games. But, some of these games, they're getting punted in. Look at San Francisco and even Jacksonville, Baltimore. Some of these games have been ugly, and they make them where they just only seemingly give up. They're 1-12. The writing's on the wall. There's 3 games left. I don't know how they move the ball, frankly.
Another good game here, 313, 314, Houston and Tennessee, the battle of the AFC South here. Lines opened up at -3, pretty much stayed there all week long, but the total has risen. Some outlets at 47.5, some at 48, now rising up to 50. And who's stopping Ryan Tannehill in this offense? Once he was supplanted in and put in as the starting quarterback, this offense goes up and down the field. Derrick Henry's got room to run. He's making athletic plays in the pocket, outside the pocket, wide receivers stepping up. I really like what I see. And then we get to that Bill O'Brien-led Houston Texans, which were absolutely washed last week at home when they had a chance to take another step and try to win the division. Now going on the road in this environment, going in to try to play a football team, but playing the underdog role, not the favored role. We know they have an all-world quarterback. We know they have one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in football. But I got to tell you, sometimes, Jeff and Ian, riding the hot hand really makes sense. From a capping standpoint, I look at this like, boy, I really want to take the 3 points. But it's one of those factors where when you watch Baltimore, nobody's really saying right now, oh, I'll get in front of Baltimore. Let's see if we can knock them off. Tennessee Titans are hot. They're winning by margin. Their offense is going up and down the field. Maybe the total is the better look here, but I still like the Tennessee Titans here, Ian.
Yeah, this was the first bet I made this week. Actually, it was Monday because I knew this total could only go one way, and that was up. And anybody that's watched me on these NFL shows the last few weeks knows how I've been riding Tennessee over the total. I got 48.5, and I knew it had to go up, and it was. It's 50.5 now. And I still like it at the current number, but this is one of my favorite plays of the week here. Houston, Tennessee over the total. Ryan Tannehill and the Titans, since he took over as the starting quarterback, they're one of the league leaders in passing yards per game, explosive plays per game, total yards per game, and points per game. They're averaging 34 points per game since Tannehill's taken over. It looks like a totally different offense. Isn't it amazing how when you have a quarterback that can actually throw the ball downfield, what it can do for an offense? Because Mariota couldn't do that. He couldn't do that worth a lick for this Titans offense. Tannehill has proven he can. It's opened up Derrick Henry running the football, and now this is a balanced and dangerous attack right now. And also, if you look at their pace ratings, they've actually snapped the ball quicker with Tannehill at quarterback because Tannehill likes getting on a little bit of rhythm and getting to the huddle quickly. Their seconds per snap numbers have also changed quite a bit from Mariota to Tannehill. This is an offense that nobody has stopped in recent weeks. Houston's defense, I don't see playmakers on Houston's defense. They lack a pass rush. I don't like the secondary. Gone are the days when they had an elite shutdown secondary. Texans don't have that anymore. Drew Lock is going in there and lighting their ass up last week. And isn't that a typical Bill O'Brien performance for a team coached by him? You have the big win against New England, and you fall flat right on your face, fall on your keister against Denver last week at home and get blown out in that game. Typical Bill O'Brien lack of being able to follow up a good performance with another one. I do think Houston will play a lot better, especially on offense here. And Tennessee's defense, just as the offense has improved a lot, they've started to give up a couple of big plays. This will be the best offense the Titans have played and best quarterback they've played in weeks with Watson, who's going to have Will Fuller back at receiver. That's going to help him. So that gives them Will Fuller, Hopkins, and Kenny Stills. That's a pretty good trifecta. And the Titans' defensive weakness is still their secondary. Yeah, this game screams big plays, points in bunches, and Tennessee 7-0 to the over in their last 7 games since Ryan Tannehill's taken over. Ride the streak, guys. I'm on the over.
Seems like a must-win in this game for the Tennessee Titans because you do know they end the season where Tennessee does have to go to Houston. Big-time wide receivers. And, Jeff, I know how much you like DeAndre Hopkins in this game. Is that going to be enough on the road, or is it one of those things where you say, you know what, hot hand on one side, Bill O'Brien on one, I can't trust it? Which way are we looking here, Jeff?
Yeah, when it comes to recency bias, I'm not sure you can look at two bigger discrepancies. Tennessee's won 4 in a row in those 4 games. They're averaging 38.6 points a game. And you look on the other side, I mean, Houston just, what was the last thing we saw last week? Them getting beat up at home and down 35 to Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos. Again, what's a bigger discrepancy than that? Ian mentioned the pass defense for the Titans. We remember over the years they've actually been pretty good defensively. Against the pass, they're horrific. In fact, they're dead last against slot receivers in the NFL. So really, anywhere you look at it, Malcolm Butler being out's hurt them. They just can't get a ton of stops. And when I look at overs, and I'm sure you guys look at this, I'm looking at touchdown percentage in the red zone. I don't want fucking field goals. I want touchdowns. Tennessee is number one, guys, in the NFL in touchdown percentage in the red zone. 73% of their drives, guys, end in a touchdown. Houston is sixth. That is huge in this game. Yeah, I don't say how this isn't a 31-27 type of game. Both these teams like to move the football through the air. I think they have to recognize the mismatches in both secondaries. I wouldn't really want to ride the hot end. I will say, though, if you're looking to go sharp in this game, you're looking to get on the side of the pros, Texas +3, I think, is interesting. I think for me, I'm always looking at things that may change. I want to get ahead sometimes. I don't look at Tennessee guys and say, wow, I don't want to step in front of that team. I feel like at any time, I don't have a lot of confidence in them. I know they've done well, but
that's the way, Jeff, I feel. I don't want to – I'm not betting against Tennessee, and I'm not going to, but this feels like a Houston spot. It really does after they got smacked in the mouth last week by Denver to bounce back strong, and I think they'll play a lot better, especially on offense. And the one little bit of dirt that you can shovel on this Tennessee streak, other than the win against Tennessee, or other than the win against Kansas City, rather, the other wins, Jacksonville, who's quit, Indy, who's been banged up and struggled lately, and Oakland, who's been on a downturn. This will be the best team of that bunch. We'll see if Tennessee's ready to knock them off.
How about this next game, 315, 316 down in Carolina? And inactives, if you're not paying attention to the inactives or, betting early or not reading some of the tea leaves that come in on these games, it's going to cost you. Number one cornerback's down. Two top pass rushers are down from an already inept Seattle team on defense. But you're looking at Russell Wilson. This is one of those games, maybe he gets a breather. Last week, what did we see on the field? Good Lord, man. They look awful against the Rams. Well, that Rams front seven can make a lot of people look awful. That's not going to be the case today. Almost a team and a defense that looks like it's quit. Looking at the totals in this game, opened up at 48, hovering right around 49. But if we've seen a line, people can't get enough of the Seattle Seahawks, opening up at 5.5. Now we're seeing 6s across the board. Do we think Seattle can win this football game? Of course we do. But we do Seattle play, and usually when they win, even win on the road, it's usually in closer environments. But the one thing that I'm struggling with is saying, you know what, Kyle Allen, can he step back? He's not going to have a very tough defense to go up against. They're healthy on the offensive side of the ball. I see points in this game as opposed to going with a side. Seattle needs to win this game. Carolina doesn't need to win this game. Carolina fired their head coach. They're not really even trying, it looks like, on defense at this point. Is that going to be enough? We say, Russell Wilson's going to make enough plays. They'll win enough by margin. Or is this going to be one of those games saying, damn it, there's Seattle on the road again? Jeff, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I kind of like your thoughts on the over. I will say, you look at the teams with winning records in the NFL, Seattle has given up the most yards per game. They're not a good defense. Without Clowney, without Griffin, without some of those big hitters up front, Al Woods, guys like that can get to the quarterback, that is not something I want against a guy that is arguably the best player in the NFL, McCaffrey. You got to kind of feel bad for him. Doesn't he always seem like he's going to be the guy that never has enough? He's Mike Trout. That's what he is. He just is. Yeah. A lot of injuries for Seattle. They're on the road here. I think we have to also continue to talk about Seattle. Who have they really beaten, to be real honest, outside of, one or two teams? They've had a pretty solid run with who they've been able to play. Carolina's lost 5 in a row. Why would you back them here? But they're at home. They have the best player in the league on their team. And I still think defensively they're pretty decent. It's a tough one. I lean over. I lean with the dog. But this is a messy game with a lot of injuries that I really have no interest in playing. Don't just think Seattle's going to go in and beat up the Carolina Panthers, because Christian McCaffrey still has some pride and he's still a terrific player.
Yeah, Ian, if we take a look at this game, Bobby Wagner usually having an all-world season like we've been accustomed to the past couple of years, struggling a little bit here, but also a key indicator. Michael Kendrick's one of the faster linebackers in football. He's also not going to play in this game. So down Ansa, down also on the opposite side, Jadeveon Clowney. There's going to be a lot of room. And also, let's not forget, the secondary that stinks, they had a really good cornerback there in Shaquille Griffin. He's also out. They have speed at wide receiver for Carolina, an unbelievable running back, and if their quarterback can just make some plays to get these guys in space, that could make a difference. Are we looking at this game saying Seattle has something to play for, Carolina doesn't? But again, West Coast team, we know they have an ultimate home field advantage going on the road, and we're not talking about sloppy conditions. It's going to be about 50 degrees, light wind here, Ian. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I bet Seattle early in the week. I'm going to stick with it, but you're right. The injuries are a little bit disconcerting, especially on the defensive side of the football. Jadeveon Clowney ruled out. Michael Kendricks ruled out. Shaquille Griffin, as you mentioned, out for this game. But I still come back to my rudimentary reason why I bet Seattle in the first place is because it's a bounce-back spot. It's a team we trust and a quarterback we trust in Russell Wilson, and a bounce-back spot off arguably his worst game and the team's worst game of the season, going on the road where Seattle, believe it or not, they're not making money anymore in Seattle. They're making most of their money for their backers on the road. 6-0 straight up, 5-0-1 against the spread this year. Seattle on the road, they played well away from home all year. Bounce back spot. I just don't know, guys, what I'm going to get from Carolina, focus, motivation, or excitement-wise. I think that brutal loss to New Orleans in the Superdome a couple weeks ago really just absolutely crushed this team. Their spirit, season over. And in the 2 weeks after that, it's been, they lose, almost double-digit favorites against Washington at home, lose outright, and then they get blown out by Atlanta last week. Not a great Atlanta team by any stretch. Where is the motivation? Where is that we're still trying hard for a losing team going nowhere? I'm not seeing enough of it from Carolina. So I'm still going to go ahead, lay the 6 with Seattle. And it's also why I would lean over as well. But how much am I going to get out of Carolina? I'm not seeing as much of that. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep battling and competing to our biggest, our most strength down the stretch. I'm not seeing that from them. So Seattle for me, lean to the over, but just Seattle -6.
Yeah, banged up a little bit, as we said, Seattle. But keep in mind also, a lot of us have them dead and buried, like, they lost last week. They're not going to be able to take the 49ers. The 49ers are equally banged up. And week 17, Niners going to have to go up to Seattle and play that game, which is probably going to be for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. So keep an eye on that situation. Fun game to talk about it. Let's keep it moving with this one. If you're watching any of the telecast, obviously, I don't know if you are watching since you're watching radio on YouTube, but it's snowing. It's going to be cold in Kansas City. There are field conditions. That's the reason why this total is dropping. Opened up at 45.5, 46. We're now seeing 43s across the board, but the line is pretty much staying total. -10s, -9.5 that they open up. We're still seeing that across the board with the -9.5. And look, Patrick Mahomes banged up with his thumb. They said last week in the second half they had to change the play calling because he couldn't throw the football deep. Now you're adding an extra layer of weather implications. And I got to tell you, I really like what I've seen over the past couple weeks out of the Denver Broncos, even with a rookie quarterback. He's got some wheels. He's got some pocket moxie. He should be able to make some plays. I'm leaning towards taking the points. If you're going to give me snowy conditions in this type of environment in the divisional game, I'll lean on the 10 because I'm not really sold just yet on what Kansas City has to offer until they get completely healthy, especially at the quarterback position. Ian, I'll start with you first on this one. Do we trust the Kansas City Chiefs in this weather conditions to cover 10 points? And is it a mirage what we saw from the Denver Broncos the past couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I like Denver here too, plus the points. I really do. You look at teams that are out of the playoffs, not going to make it, but they're fighting, they're competing. Denver's in that category. And boy, I think the Drew Lock emergence at quarterback has really sparked them. They've got he's lifted this team. I mean, 2-0 straight up and against the spread. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Texans down last week in Houston. And Drew Lock's looking capable. He has thrown an interception. He's made a mistake in each game too, but he's had way more good than bad in each of those first 2 starts. And you can't love this. This is not a Kansas City spot. Okay, they're coming off the huge revenge win against New England last week up against the Patriots. They were big time celebrating that win like they won the playoffs, won a playoff game. And now you got to try to bounce back and focus and lay almost 10 points here at home against a Denver team that offensively is much better, I think, now with Locke at quarterback, has shown the ability to find receivers down the field, uses ability athletically to make plays and scramble around outside of the pocket when plays break down. You just can't love the spot. And again, how the hand issue too with Patrick Mahomes. How good is that going to be for Kansas City coming into this game? It's just not the spot I'm looking to lay these kind of points with. Denver's one of those teams. They've got a losing record, but they're not rolling over. They've come to play each of the last 2 weeks, and if they come to play again today, and I think they will, I think they can hang inside the number.
Jeff, shocking victory for me last week for the Denver Broncos. They look good in all facets last week in a blowout win against a team that was in first place. Now you switch it over. It's going to be a divisional game. You still got the young quarterback. What are we expecting? Because we don't have a ton of weapons for Denver. And now being in the snow, looks like they're going to be even crunched in sooner. Maybe a running game type situation. Too many points in this game? Total too high? What are we looking at?
Yeah, I thought the Denver Broncos actually got a total steal with Drew Lock in the second round. I thought Drew Lock was probably the second or third best quarterback in that draft last year. I'm not kidding. I would have taken him over Dwayne Haskins personally, Daniel Jones. I like Drew Lock. I think he's a terrific quarterback, kind of a gunslinger. I think he could be a really solid thrower in this league. Look, I will make it clear. I don't really care that it's snowing. I think people see snow and they just assume unders. Let me take you a couple years ago, Detroit, Philadelphia. They scored like 60 points in that game. It doesn't matter. It's not always a big thing. But I will say, you look at in the Andy Reid era, Arrowhead Stadium's been one of the better under stadiums in the league. So keep that in mind. 4 of the last 5 between these two teams have been decided by 10 or less. Give the ball to Lindsey. Give the ball to Freeman. At the end of the day, Kansas City's defense, particularly against the run, is, as usual, shocking. Yeah, I actually like the points here. Denver's lost 8 in a row against Kansas City, but they find ways to hang around. I think Drew Lock, if you read some of the articles out there in the Denver area, he is providing some excitement. Could he be the guy going forward? Why not? He's a first-round talent that was taken in the second round. He fell. I think he's trying to show that this is not a good Kansas City defense. You and I know that. Mahomes has got a little injury as well, nagging him. So, yeah, I've talked about Kansas City all year. I'm not a huge fan personally. Give me Denver. I'll keep backing a team with a pretty good defense and a quarterback that seems to be able to move the ball, unlike most in Denver.
No, I hear you on that. Let's get a quick turnaround here. 319, 320, Jeff. The conspiracy theory in me says, oh my God, Eli Manning's going to start again. He's 1 game under 500. He really needs to get back to 500. We're going to start him against Miami. Maybe Archie Manning, maybe Peyton Manning, maybe even Cooper Manning had to call the NFL to make sure they get the right crew in place to give Eli Manning his 500 record. But I got to tell you, looking at the game overall, I think more weapons obviously are on the Giants side of the football. Devontae Parker's going to play, who was in concussion protocol this week. Ryan Fitzpatrick can throw you to a victory. They're playing well. Their coach has them in each and every game, it seems like, over the past few weeks. And they say, you know what? Eli's laying points 3.5, maybe at 3. I might be a buyer in the Giants, but looking at it right now, I don't know if I could dip my toes in, but I don't really understand quite. Now the over-unders are coming up. 45.5 as we opened up the show, 47 now. I do think we actually get points in this game here, Jeff.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll get points for sure. I mean, Fitzpatrick has made it clear. I mean, he just gunslings it around. He doesn't care. He seemingly has played at every team. He's got nothing to prove. He lets it all hang out, as they say. He's like the guy that at the pool that just has his shirt off. He don't care that he's fat. He just, he lets it all hang out. No worries. He's living his best life, as they say, Donnie. Dolphins defense is bad, as we know. So is the Giants. No Janoris Jenkins. He was waived earlier this week. Look, I'm not sure if you waved someone over the comments he made. I mean, they were in poor taste, surely, but this is, I guess you're just putting, the fact that we hold ourselves to a certain organization over others.
By the way, Jeff, if let's the Giants flip it over where they're heading into the playoffs and possible 1 seed, do they waive? Exactly. Go ahead. Yep, go
of course not. This is a bad defense. It is, and he was probably their best corner. I mean, DeAndre Baker's been horrific. Some of their others have been bad as well. You got to figure. I mean, Saquon Barkley hasn't had a great sophomore season. He had a great freshman season, but this second season has become a little bit tougher. This could be a game where he shows out. I mean, this is a bad Dolphin defense. I think they're going to make it easy on Eli. Get the ball to Barkley. Get the ball to guys. Last week, some of their guys were just shredding the Eagles. I think Eli can do enough to score some points in this game. I think both these teams just kind of let it hang out and play kind of a shootout. I'll for time's sake, I'll lean over. I wouldn't be betting this game. There are better opportunities in this game.
No, I agree with you, Jeff. Ian, when we look at this football game, because I look at I'd like to use the term taking a breather. Both of these defenses are horrendous. Both of these quarterbacks under pressure, what do? Throw jump balls 40 yards down the field, and that helps totals in this. Looking at this game, breaking it down, we like the way Miami has played. Do you trust the Giants? And is this one where New York circles the wagons? There's no way Eli makes one last start in New York, and they don't win, Ian.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. I mean, the laying points with the Giants is not something I want to do, but Miami on the road as well in a colder environment. No, that's not something. That's the two sides I don't want any part of. The over, I really love the over early in the week, but I'm hearing there's winds in excess of 25 miles per hour today. And from a totals perspective, when you're betting overs, forget rain, forget snow. Wind is your number one deterrent when it comes to overs, and that does concern me a little bit. It's swirling, apparently, the wind around MetLife Stadium for that game today, so I'm a little bit leery of the over in light of that. But these are two bad offensive lines that have had trouble with protecting their quarterbacks. These are two teams that don't get a lick of pass rush, so it's an opportunity, I think, for both Fitzpatrick and for Manning to at least get some time to throw the football down the field, and if they can find some time, they can make plays because these two secondaries are bad. They're horrendous, both of these secondaries. So I am concerned a little about the wind. I do have the over, but a smaller bet because of the wind, but I still think there's a chance for points. The wind, though, kept it a smaller play.
Yeah, we're going to speed it up here. We're going to skip over some of these football games, get to some of the bigger ones, some of the more intriguing matchups. We'll end the show with these two football games, both at 4 o'clock, 3:31, 3:32. Minnesota heads out west. We know the struggles of Minnesota on the road as opposed to being at home. And what's up with the Chargers defense? Looking like the goddamn 85 Bears mixed with the steel curtain of the 70 Steelers. Coming into this game, you're going to get a pass rusher on Kirk Cousins. Adam Thielen's going to play in this game. Tailback's going to play, Dalvin Cook. They're all together on offense. And last week was one of those games where we all looked at it and said, the Chargers should be able to roll over Jacksonville. But for some reason, I can't take them because I don't like what I see. They hit the gas pedal last week. I got to tell you, I think they beat Minnesota today. Ian, I'll start with you first in this one.
It's not a Minnesota spot, that's for sure. And we see their defense on the roads a little bit more susceptible. You talk about gunslingers. That's what Phillip Rivers is. He's going to keep doing it. But Minnesota, I think, will move the ball as well. Here's another game where I think, points could be in the offing here. That's the way I looked, over 45.
Jeff, how about you in this football game? Phillip Rivers struggling, then he pulls rabbits out of a hat. The defense playing well, getting healthy in the secondary. I know how much you love Derwin James. The two front pass rushers with Ingram and also Bosa can get after the quarterback. Are you trusting? Because I know we're cut from the same cloth here. We see Kirk Cousins play well at home, and when the times are really good, he can air it out. But when the rubber meets the road in the second half of big games, especially not at home, he sort of comes up a little bit small. How about today?
Yeah, I also don't trust the Vikings defense. I mean, every week this team's getting beat up in a secondary. Mm-hmm. If you're Phillip Rivers, as we just said with Fitzpatrick, you got to let it all hang out. Throw the football deep. This is a bad defense, and they back. You mentioned Derwin James. Think he's terrific. They also drafted Nasir Adderley, who I really liked out of Delaware. I like this defense a lot. I think they're starting to obviously get healthy, and that's important. They're hosting this game as well. I will make this clear, though, and I pause on the Chargers for one reason. Mike Zimmer and the Vikings are unbelievable against non-divisional teams. I mean, laying points, they've just been exquisite. I mean, the record is wildly effective, but I like that a lot more at home. I've never been a big Viking guy on the road, and you mentioned Cousins. I don't really like to ride home with him. So, yeah, it leaned to the Chargers here. I like the way their defense is playing.
One last game we'll go over before we get to a little bit of picks and have a little bit of fun to end the show, 329, 330. One of the biggest line movements of the week, and not because of weather conditions, but just because of maybe situational spots. We really like what we see out of the Rams the past couple weeks. We hate what we see out of the Cowboys. And whether the Cowboys win or lose today, again, it doesn't really matter. But when you're taking a look at the Rams, theoretically, guys, they could miss the playoffs by winning 10 games and being hot down the stretch. We'll see how that plays out. But this line opens up at -3 in the favor of the Cowboys, even swung as much as -1 in favor of the Los Angeles Rams, now down to a pick 'em. I like the Rams in this spot. Jeff, I'll come right back with you here. I think we get points, and I think the Rams have to win this game, where if you're from Dallas, do you throw the whole kitchen sink out today, regardless of what happens? Because then if you lose next week in Philadelphia, it doesn't matter anyway here.
Yeah, I think with Dallas, though, I know that Donnie, you think that way a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. I just don't really think they think like that in the NFL. I think it's a week-to-week thing. I think obviously they know, but this is an NFC opponent. This is a game that you are hosting at the end of the day. The whole world likes the Rams, and we always have to talk about recency bias. Recency bias is that the Cowboys aren't good. Their coach stinks. We all know that they have the talent. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, Gallup, Cooper, Dak Prescott, they're there. They have the talent. They're at home here. I don't like Jared Goff. I just don't. I have no interest in backing Jared Goff on the road, and I'm not going to have the wool pulled over my eyes. I don't think the Rams are a great football team. I think last week they had to win that game. If they lose, they're not going to the playoffs. They responded and beat a Seattle team on the road none of us really like. I like the Cowboys here. I think they win the game. I think they make it clear today they are the team going into next week to beat in the NFC East. We all know as Eagle fans, the Cowboys are going to beat the Eagles. I'm not an idiot. I'm a realist. The Eagles are not going to beat the Cowboys with this current roster. They're not. I think the Cowboys start it this week. I think to get a win today, all they're going to do is win. I think they do that.
Ian, 8 out of 10 tickets coming in on the Rams. Massive line movement here. We know what's on the line in this game. We've seen this before. Oh, they can't do it. And they say, let's not forget here, this isn't the Bengals offense. This is statistically, now whether Baltimore just passed them, the number one offense in football. They have some decent components that can rush the passer when we know that gives Jared Goff problems. Are we overlooking this? And as Jeff says, look, they're still at home with stuff to play for. They're probably not just going to lay down out there and say, run us over and beat us 42-0, and then we'll take those good vibes into Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's. I can't back Dallas, but I understand the reasoning in terms of, you're a man on an island probably. If you're backing the Dallas Cowboys, that's the way it is right now. This team has been looked like they're falling apart on the field, off the field, with Jerry Jones, criticizing Jason Garrett multiple times this year, playing their worst football at the wrong time. And you contrast that, the Rams are starting to put it together and play better football in back-to-back weeks. They crushed and destroyed Arizona. They beat Seattle on Sunday Night Football in dominating fashion last week. So people see that and line up on the Rams. And I would lean that way, but I've got the quote-unquote heebie-jeebies back in the Rams here in this game because it seems like everybody's on them. Everybody has thrown Dallas into the garbage chute, and usually sometimes those are spots where the team that nobody wants rises up. So, again, Rams are pass, and I think just for the sake of sanity, I decided to pass.
All right, we're going to go over some best bets here in just a few moments. But before I want to say that, guys, we do this show independent here. We do welcome you in, and thank you for tuning in today. Me and Jeff got some really good plans going on. Before we talk about that, Ian, let the people out there know where they can find you and what you're doing out there.
Yeah, busy at this time of year. We're doing lots of things right now. Patreon Ice Guys is the main thing. Daily hockey show, patreon.com/Ice Guys. It's just $10 a month. Myself, Alex B. Smith, Andrew McGinnis, and Jimmy Murphy breaking down NHL hockey every single day. We have a lot of fun, great info, great insight from a betting perspective with that. And for anybody interested in a subscription with me, you can just send me an email, bobano350@gmail.com.
Jeff and I have been working behind the scenes for the past 2 weeks, setting up something we think everybody's going to like here. And Ian, you're certainly down the line going to be a part of this. No question about it. Jeff, tell the people out there what we got going on, and we ain't waiting. Might be today, right, Jeff?
Yeah. Donnie and I are we're always moving around doing different things, trying to stick on something that works. We've had a show on my channel, Right Side of Campus, really just moving the times. We're going to make it a kind of a podcast now on iTunes. You can call in. It's going to be a fun show we're going to do every night at 10 o'clock Eastern, Sunday to Thursday. So check that out. It'll be on our pages. Once you know where to go, it'll be there every night. And we'll post that later. It's called Don't Teaser Me, Bro, which Don't Tase Me, Bro is very synonymous in Philadelphia. We're going to basically assault you if you take teasers, and we're going to tase you. But no, are we giving plays of the day? Or?
Yeah, right now, Jeff, let it rip. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're first.
I like Cleveland -2.5 or 3. I think the number 3 currently.
3 light juice. Yep,
Yeah.
3 light juice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm laying the 3 here. Okay, I've seen Arizona. I've watched this team. I think a lot more than most. Kyler Murray is not a good NFL quarterback. He just isn't. And that might change. Maybe he'll grow 6 inches and not have happy feet in the pocket. But today he's facing a Cleveland defense that's been pretty damn good at getting to the quarterback. And he has been miserable under pressure, just miserable. I think with Cleveland, we have to also highlight the fact that when they play a bad defense, they are putting up a lot of points.
Yep.
Arizona's as bad as it gets on that side of the ball. They're exciting. They move the ball occasionally, but I think the defense for Cleveland comes to play today. Arizona's given up 30 points a game at home. And like I said, I have solace in the fact that when they play a bad team, Cleveland, they are taking care of business, okay? They have weapons. Odell could have a big game here against a bad defense, or Landry, whoever it is, whoever's active. I don't have the inactives yet, but yeah, I'm going with Cleveland here. I think they take care of business, win by a touchdown or more. Arizona is pretty bad.
Ian, hit it. Go ahead.
All right, we'll give you 4 today. 4 overs. New England, Cincy, over 42. Houston, Tennessee, over 50. Cleveland, Arizona,
Yes.
Jeff just talked about it,
There you
over
go.
49. Murray and the Cardinals will move a little bit on offense.
Yes.
Browns let the Bengals move the ball up and down. If not for bad red zone from Cincinnati, Bengals score more against Cleveland last week. So there'll be points in that game. And last but not least, half their starting defense out for the 49ers today against Atlanta. Questionable spot. And Shanahan realizes this. He knows his team's got to score points, just like they did last week against 48. That's a decimated defense due to injury. Atlanta in a suspect spot for San Fran will move the ball. My 4th over, Atlanta, San Francisco, over 48.
Yep, and for me, I'm going to go Denver Broncos getting the 9.5 points. I'm going to take those Rams at a pick 'em. That'll wrap up the show today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We had a lot of fun doing this. Catch Ian on the channels and also Jeff at what he's doing also at bmocwins.com. A lot of fun out there to be had. The NFL is ready to kick off, and so are we. Until next time we meet, have a good night. Thanks, guys.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you.